Hey guys, I'm Let 'em Taters. You can call me Taters. In today's Power Index video, by community vote and narrowly edging out Captain Marvel movie, we're taking an in-depth look at Quake, MCOC's most elusive skill cap. In addition to Quake, we'll be evaluating 6 other science champs. Red Hulk, Hulk Ragnarok, aka Gladiator Hulk, OG Hulk, Abomination, Joe Fixit, and Rhino, who, isn't really associated with all the Hulks, but he's big, and I want to save She-Hulk for her own video breakdown. So let's get shaken. Quake is a science champion of the offensive raw damage subclass. The first stat, as you probably know by now, is practical DPS. For my definitions of each stat, reference the description box. Practical DPS starts at 5 points, and points are awarded or deducted. Accurately explaining Quake's realistic damage potential means clarifying her intended playstyle, detailing the numerical output associated with it, doing some math, and basically ignoring her given values because they're irrelevant if she's played as intended. Quake's intended attack mechanic is to charge her heavy. We'll explore specifics when we get to the playability category, but for now, accept that as the foundation for her DPS. Her heavy charge generates an Earthquake, which deals 12% of her base attack per second. For a rank 5 5-star, that's a tick above 300 physical damage. Not really a big deal when it's isolated, but again, it's per second of her heavy charge. Also, she generates 1 aftershock scale per half second, 2 per second, while charging her heavy. If her heavy charge is interrupted, these values are paused until she resumes. 10 seconds after her initial heavy charge, she inflicts aftershock. For every aftershock scale she generated during the Earthquake, she deals 864 direct physical damage, or 33% of her base attack at rank 5. None of this is supposed to knock your socks off yet, by the way, it's just the build-up. If you were fighting an inert defender, like the totally immobile sparring partners in Mortal Kombat's practice mode, in a 10-second span, if you charged your heavy without interruption, you could reach 20 to 21 aftershock scales. But that's not realistic. A realistic average, based on feedback from 2 of the best Quakers I know personally and my own experience with her, is 15 scales. Alright, let's get out a calculator. 15 scales multiplied by 864 physical damage is just about 13,000 damage. But remember that in order to build those scales, she has to charge her heavy, and while charging her heavy, she also deals 300 direct damage per second. To get to 15 scales in 10 seconds, she'd have to charge her heavy for at least 7 seconds, giving a 3-second buffer for defender interference or thumb slippage, etc. 7 multiplied by 300 is, of course, 2,100. 2,100 plus 13,000 is 15,100. And 15,100 divided by 10 seconds is 1,510 damage per second based strictly on base values, excluding attack-related masteries. Which means, at her weakest, 0 boosted attack from any source, she can wipe out 50,000 defender health in approximately 35 seconds. For comparison, Wasp, one of only 2 champs that ranks top 5 in both attack and crit damage, needs roughly 30 seconds to do so, using only basic and heavy attacks. And Magic, whose attack equals the halfway point between Game Low King Groot and Game High Doctor Doom, under the same restrictions and removing limbo damage, should take around 50 seconds. If you had trouble following this, well, so did I. Quake gets an 8 here, and you'll have to trust me because this explanation is the best my feeble brain can muster. The next stat is sustainability, usually, but well, we need to skip ahead first to playability, the 6th stat, which starts at 5 points and deducts for difficulty. So I'll ask the question for the sake of formality. How easy is Quake to use properly? To which I'll reply to myself, aw, Taters, that's so cute, you must be new here. If a character without a skill cap exists in Contest of Champions, it's Quake. A skill cap refers to the ceiling of a skill's mastery. An easy skill to master has a low cap. A skill that requires intensive study and or practice, such as becoming a pilot or master martial artist, has a high cap. Quake is very difficult to master. The other variable for consideration is quantifying quote-unquote proper play. And I'll be blunt, it's beyond my bandwidth or commitment to this video to go down that rabbit hole. There are several methods to playing Quake, each extending her skill cap, and the most advanced of which, heavy only, doesn't really have a cap at all. The method I'll use for judgment, for no other reason than most Quake players use it most often, is deck style, or decks only. A method by which Quake can entirely avoid any defender contact at all, but a method that requires a player's focus, ability to recognize which basic attack the defender is throwing, and react to it in a millisecond with nimble screen commands. For tutorials on how to actually play Quake, I'd recommend checking out Menashe's YouTube channel, which I'll link below. But no playstyle, aside from her own more ambitious styles, is more challenging than decks-only Quake. 0 out of 5 for playability, the only champ in MCOC with this category score. Sustainability's turn, starting at 5 points. Because Quake is a special case, I'm going to read a snippet from my own definition of this category provided in my introductory power index video. If you are on a never-ending quest and you had no synergies and played your champ reasonably well, how long would that champ last? Emphasis on reasonably well. What's reasonable for the only champ in MCOC with a 0 in playability? I don't really know. An aside, I didn't expect Quake to be as hard to talk about as she is to play, but here we are. I'm going to say an 80% success rate on Quake's play mechanics is reasonable. A completely arbitrary ratio, I admit. If played decks only to perfection, Quake could power through an infinite path save for node buffs and a handful of defenders. And if you mess up and take a hit, her health pool isn't awful. It's equal to Gwenpool and Rogue, among others, and 27% higher than the game's lowest. So let's go with an 8 here. Magic, Doctor Doom, and Vision all have unique and incredibly potent power control abilities, but their abilities require something that Quake's doesn't: hitting the opponent. Quake is the only champion in MCOC whose intended playstyle would give 0 defensive combat power to any opponent. 5 out of 5 here, alone in her score for this category as well. While under the effect of concussion, which Quake inflicts during Earthquake and Aftershock, the defender suffers minus 100% ability accuracy. By my count, there are only 4 champions in MCOC that are fully immune to active ability accuracy reduction: Archangel, Longshot, Mysterio, and Old Man Logan. There are others with increased ability accuracy and passive AAR immunity, but only 4 whose abilities cannot be altered at all from Quake's concussion. 4 out of 171. If you know of someone I'm missing, please let me know in the comments. My definition of utility is founded on ability modification, and once more, Quake stands alone as the mightiest in this field. It works against poison and bleed immunities, unlike Archangels, and covers all ability accuracy, unlike Black Widow's constraint to defensive abilities. 5 points in utility. Because Quake will never use a special attack if played as designed, she gets a 1 out of 5 in Suicide's compatibility. Side note, joining the Double Edge Mastery with Coagulate and leaving Liquid Courage empty, Quake can actually maintain almost all of her health from maximum willpower. Quake is an outrageous champion and the highest scored by this system by a considerable margin. Her final tally is a staggering 9.69. I don't think I'm stepping out of bounds by saying MCOC cannot handle another character this powerful. She was released 4 years ago this September, and Kabam is still struggling to minimize her sweeping command on the game. Every Quake superlative siphoned a portion of my energy, so forgive me, but we're going to fly through these 6 ancillary champs. With 10 heat charges, Red Hulk deals an additional 180% direct physical damage on every attack, and this scales with critical hits. His base attack is in the top third among all characters for reference, and at 10 heat charges is 2.3 times higher than the highest in the game. Utter destruction. His health is only 12.5% lower than Man-Thing's, and his physical resistance at 10 heat stacks is more than 9 times the highest natural resistance in the game. Plus, he regens 5% of his total health with SP2 activation. He's immune to poison, converts incinerates into heat charges, not reliant on special attacks, and he's a classic parry and smash brawler, the type of champion anyone can play at any skill level. He's an absolute monster. 6.72, tier 6. Gladiator Hulk has above average DPS potential, heal block and innervate on special attacks, and RNG-dependent regeneration and poison immunity. Of all the Hulks, his special attacks are the most beneficial to his overall attack kit, so he's a point lower in Suicide's compatibility. 6.09 score, tier 5. Original Hulk has decent damage that scales based on lost health, a silly dichotomy in a game whose first goal is to not get hit, and his health and physical resistance are better than ordinary. 5.31, tier 4, very average. Abomination and Joe Fixit are very similar, with A-Bomb taking the edge in DPS due to his Fury mechanic and heightened base attack value, and Fixit winning the sustainability match on account of a regen despite sharing health pool, armor, and block proficiency with A-Bomb. Fixit is more complex and reliant on special attacks, so he fetches a 4.92. A-Bomb logs an even 5.0. Both are tier 3. Rhinos are last to be indexed today. Attack values are average to under and can only be enhanced with a 10% chance on basic attacks or by pinning your opponent to their wall, and the gains don't raise any eyebrows. Good health, armor, and physical resistance, but no immunities or recovery attributes. His unstoppable charge with the chance to be unblockable nets him a flimsy point in utility. 4.53, tier 2. One mudslide from the bottom of the desert valley. Here's a chart with all champs that we've indexed so far through 3 weeks, 21 in total. Within tiers, champs are ordered highest to lowest, left to right, and champs who share identical overall scores have conjoined borders and are listed alphabetically. A link to this updated chart will be in the description box of each video moving forward. Thanks for supporting another entry in this series. I hope your enjoyment of these videos is growing, not waning, and if that's the case, leave a like for me and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'd love to say I'm above caring about that stuff, but it's how I gauge whether this series warrants continued entries or not. The core viewership has been strong and supportive, but the series hasn't reached the interest I was aiming for. I'll keep it going, of course, but any help you can lend, be it a tap on your phone or sharing a link in your line chats, is help I'd gladly receive. As voted on by you guys, we're headed to the Cosmos for a report card on Captain Marvel movie. Catch the premiere next Tuesday at 11 Eastern as MCOC takes its weekly maintenance nap. We've done first looks at 3 champion classes so far, and with the Cosmic class under a microscope next week, that will leave Skill and Mutant as the only unexplored classes. So nominate your picks from those 2 classes only, and the champ with the highest number of mentions and upvotes will be the Week 4 focus. Special thanks to Brennan Dapp, 2 of 4 Loki's top Quake experts, on their insights for this video. Dapp has a YouTube channel of his own and posts very good and often very funny content. A link to his channel is in the description box. See you guys next Tuesday.